In today's podcast, I intend to examine two songs, The Seeds of Love and The Sprig of Time. Both have similar themes using flower motifs as symbols of their disappointed love. Over the years, the songs have become intertwined. I will show both songs as separate entities and look at their possible history, then show how they've become joined as if they were one song. I will sing examples of various tunes linked to the songs and finish with a performance of the song. Oh, I sow the seeds of love, and I sow them in the spring. I gather them up in the morning so soon, while the small birds sweetly sing, while the small birds sweetly sing. Oh, the gardener was standing near, and he said he'd choose for me. He chose me the violet, the lily and the pink, and them I refused all three, and them I refused all three. Now the violet's a lovely flower, but it will fade so soon. The lily and the pink I did overlook, for I said I would stay till June. I said I would stay till June. In June there's the red rose bud, and that's the flower for me. I walked and plucked up a red rose bud, and I've gained the willow tree, and I've gained a willow tree. That tune and words for that version was collected in 1956 by Fred Hamer from Harry Scott of Eaton Bray in Bedfordshire. Harry called the song The Gardener's Song, and he usually started the song from the second verse. I've added back the usual first verse to make the song more complete. The song Seeds of Love tells of a singer's disappointment in love using flower motifs to symbolise emotions. The origin of the song was thought to be derived from a poem by Mrs. Fleetwood Habergam of Habergam Hall near Padiham in Lancashire, and according to Dr. Whitaker's History of the Parish of Whalley, which was printed in 1801, that she had written it to console herself when, in 1689, her husband's extravagances finally led to the loss of the family estates. Harland and Wilkinson, in Ballads and Songs of Lancashire in 1882, also explored the potential background to Seeds of Love, quoting from Dr. Whitaker's book, giving a fuller account of Mrs. Habergam's misfortunes. The Seeds of Love was published in Songs and Ballads of the Peasantry of England by Mr. J. H. Dixon in 1846, and in Popular Music of the Olden Time, Volume 2, in 1859 by William Chappell. Oh, the willow tree will twist, and the willow tree will twine, and I would I were in the young man's arms that ever had this heart of mine, that ever had this heart of mine. My gardener, as he stood by, he bade me take great care, for if I gather the rose so red, there groweth up a sharp thorn there, there groweth up a sharp thorn there. I told him I'd take no care, till I did feel the smart, and still did press the rose so dear, till the thorn did pierce my heart, till the thorn did pierce my heart. Chappell stated that the song was currently one of the three most popular songs of the day, along with Cupid's Garden and Early One Morning. It had been regularly printed on broadsheets and had been included in a musical play on the London stage called The Loan of a Lover by J.R. Planche, first performed in 1823, and fairly regularly over the next 2 decades. The song was taken up in the late 18th century pleasure gardens and later in the music hall. As might be expected, a number of parodies were composed and sung in the music halls. The song was also popular with middle classes and sung in parlour performances in the Victorian times. When Cecil Sharp heard Egg Gardener John England sing The Seeds of Love in the garden of the vicarage at Hambridge in Somerset on the 22nd of August 1903, it kick-started the folk revival in a meaningful way. I sowed the seeds of love, and I sowed them in the spring. I gathered them up in the morning so soon, while the small birds sweetly sing, while the small birds sweetly sing. My garden was planted well, with flowers everywhere, but I had not the liberty to choose for myself of the flowers that I love so dear, of the flowers that I love so dear. My gardener was standing by, and I asked him to choose for me. He chose me the lily, the violet, and the pink, but those I refused all three, The violet I did not like, because it bloomed so soon. The lily and the pink I did overthink, so I vowed I'd stay till June. The Seeds of Love had been printed in English county songs in 1893 and had already been subject of interest in the folk song journals of the English Folk Song Society, and various tunes and words have been printed both in 1901 and 1902 journals. It is clear that the song was already familiar to Cecil Sharp. There is evidence that Sharp had visited Reverend Charles Marson in Somerset with the actual intention of finding old songs sung by working people. Much has been written about his stay with Reverend Charles Marson, an old friend from the days in Australia. Marson had been trying to get somebody down to Somerset to note the songs from his area for a few years. Sharp had heard folk songs before this, but never from a traditional source. He realised that there was a whole uncharted source of music peculiar to Britain, and more importantly, to England. After taking down the tune and words from John England, Sharp created a piano arrangement of the song, and that night at a choir supper, Sharp played the song accompanied by singer Matty Kay, one of his progenies, whom he had discovered singing in a concert in Bamber Bridge in Lancashire a few years earlier. So did the song have its origins in Mrs. Habergam's poem? Cecil Sharp in English Folk Songs Some Conclusions, printed in 1907, dismissed this as an intrusion, but his comments were written in the early days of song collection. He had specific views on what he constituted to be a folk song, and about the origins of those songs. Since Sharp's day, we have become more circumspect in the actual development of what we call folk song. Some of his theories are still applicable, but not with such a narrow vision. The publication of broadsides and song sheets, popular theatre and music hall have all created the recycling of songs to be absorbed, changed and collected decades and centuries later from country singers as folk songs, and to some extent in standardising the words. Sometimes the originals can be traced, often they've been lost. Regarding the Seeds of Love, it is possible, as suggested by Baring Gould in Songs and Ballads of the West in 1891, that if Mrs. Habergam's poem was the origin, she used an already popular motif of flowers in her poem. No early source has been found either in the published poetry, broadside or reference book. Therefore it is quite possible that this poem was the source of the song, but was changed by various hands during its journey to today's text. But there is no definite evidence to make a conclusive decision. There are several variations of the Seeds of Love wording, particularly in the older collective versions, and at some time the song became linked to another song also popular through the 18th and 19th century, the Sprig of Time. Beware, young maids, beware, beware and read my rhyme, and see that you keep your garden well, and let no man steal your time. Oh, when my time was new, it flourished both night and day, till by there came a false young man, and he stole my time away. And now my time's all gone, and I can plant no new, and the very place where my time was set is overgrown with rue. The rue runs over all, and nothing can it stop, but there grows a flower in my father's garden, and they call it Fair Maid's Hope. The tune and words for this version of Sprig of Time comes from the book Northumbrian Minstrelsy, printed in 1882, edited by Bruce and Stokoe. The singer tells how she came to lose her sprig of time, that is her maidenhead, and now the time is replaced by running rue. But there should always be hope that a young man will come and find her true, or the singer will have to wear the willow, which will be her doom, since her false love has left her here to mourn. The background to Sprig of Time is vague. It seems to be English in origin, at least the earliest noted versions are very English in form and style. The song was regularly printed on broadsheets and has been widely collected from oral sources throughout England and in Scotland. Many versions of the Sprig of Time collected in the later 19th and early 20th century begin with the traditional words of the song up to the replacement of the time by the running rue, but then end the latter half of the song with verses from the Seeds of Love. This may be a byproduct of the song being sung in pleasure gardens and in music halls of the late 19th century. The crossover of verses from one song to another with a similar theme and wordage is far from uncommon in folk song. Flower motifs in songs and poems were quite common in the 17th and 18th century. The idea is that certain flowers represent certain emotions or magical properties. The oak represents strength, the rose represents love or passion, rue represents regret and failure, thyme represents strength and courage, violet represents modesty, willow represents sorrow and failure. Now my whole time is gone, and I cannot plant any new, for the very same place where the old time grew, oh, it's all over running, running rue. Oh, it's all over running, running rue, for the very same place where the old time grew, oh, it's all over running, running rue. Oh, the rue, that running, running rue, that's not the flower for me. I will pluck all up that running, running rue, and I'll plant down a sturdy oak tree. And I'll plant down the sturdy oak tree. And I'll plant down the sturdy oak tree. I will pluck all up that running, running rue, and I'll plant down the sturdy oak tree. Stand you fast, sturdy oak. Stand you fast, don't ever die, for I'll prove as true to my true love as the stars prove true to the sky. As the stars prove true to the sky, as the stars prove true to the sky, and I'll prove as true to my true love as the stars prove true to the sky. The tune and words for this version of Sprig of Time was noted in August 1960 by Fred Hamer from William Bortle of Wrestlingworth in Bedfordshire and printed in the book Garner's Gay. Both songs have been in circulation for a couple of centuries. There have been quite a few variations of tunes for both Seeds of Love and Sprig of Time, sometimes the words of one being sung to the tune of another. It has not been helped by some of the published versions of Sprig of Time having the Seeds of Love printed as its song title. The early song collectors tried to define the two songs as related to different sexes. By this I mean the Seeds of Love was masculine and the Sprig of Time feminine. I feel that the two songs can be better defined if we accept that Seeds of Love is about the emotion of disappointed love, whereas Sprig of Time is more sensual in its emotion and is about regret, betrayal and the loss of virginity. Baring-Gould provided two songs that are variations of the Sprig of Time to Professor Child, who were printed in the English and Scottish popular ballads as an appendix to the Ballad the Gardener. The first from a broadsheet printed in Edinburgh in 1766, which links together verses from Time with those of the Gardener. The resultant song is rather confused with the tenuous thread. The gardener tells of a young gardener who tries to entice proud Margaret by promising to dress her in summer flowers. She rejects him by saying she would dress him in the harsh weather conditions of winter. The second example was noted down by Baring-Gould and known as the Dead Man's Land. This song mixes up some of the opening verses of Seeds of Love with the later call and answer verses from the gardener. In the 1977 collection Travellers' Songs from England and Scotland, Hugh MacColl suggests that the gardener may be the origin of the Seeds of Love, the flower motifs being adapted from the first part of the song. I've looked at these suggestions and the variations as cited, but in truth I can't support this case. Whatever the truth of these ideas, the songs are very singable, and whichever words are used, it can make a fine song for performing. I will end this podcast with a version of Sprig of Time collected in 1906 by George Gardner. The tune was from David Marlowe of Basingstoke in Hampshire. Come all you maidens fair, that are just now in your prime, I'd have you leave your gardens clean, and let no man steal your time. Oh, I once had a sprig of thyme, and it flourished by night and day, till at length there came a false young man, and he stole my thyme away. So now my time is gone, and I cannot plant any new, for the very place where my thyme used to grow is all overrun with rue. And rue is a running root. It runs so far underneath that I will pluck that running root, and I'll plant a jolly oak tree. Now here stands a jolly oak tree that will neither wither or die, and I'll prove so true to my dear love as the stars all in the sky. The gardener was standing by, and I asked him to choose for me. He chose me the primrose, the violet, and the vine, but I did them overlook all three. In June there's a red rosy bud, but that's not the flower for me, for oft times I plucked at the red rosy bud, and gained the willow tree. Green willow, it will twist, green willow, it will twine. I wish I was safe all in that young man's arms that stole away my time. Green willow, I will sing, green willow shall be my song, for all the world may plainly see that I once loved a false young man.